Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving into this ancient text today, one that basically says some ideas are just impossible for us to get. But what if that's not true? What if the real problem is just the way we've been trying to read it?
So this is the challenge, right? It comes from a Pali text, the Subhasutta, and it was written thousands of years ago. The argument is pretty straightforward, and honestly, kind of powerful. It says there are these profound states of mind that are just beyond us, completely out of reach for regular people.
And that just makes you wonder, doesn't it? When we read something ancient and it feels, well, impossible and abstract, is it because the wisdom is actually impossible? Or could it be that we're just coming at it with the wrong tools, the wrong lens?
Okay, so let's try to reframe this whole thing. Instead of thinking of it as a dead end, a limit on what we can do, let's look at it as a really cool puzzle. A puzzle of translation and perspective. It's really all about learning to see with fresh eyes.
So here's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to walk through this really unique three-step translation method. Then we'll put it to the test on three key ideas from the text. And you'll see how what seemed impossible suddenly starts to feel totally practical and crystal clear.
Right, so how do we actually bridge that gap between their world and ours? Well, the method we're using, it's about way more than just swapping out words. It's really about translating these big old concepts into a visual story that actually clicks for us, right here, right now. Our process breaks down into three different roles, three different ways of looking at the text. First up, you've got the scholar. This is the person who gives us a clean, by-the-book translation, straight from the original Pali. Then you bring in the linguist. The linguist goes deeper, digging into the roots of the language, trying to figure out what the speaker really meant. And to wrap it all up, we have the storyteller, who takes that deep meaning and makes it visual, makes it something we can connect with today. And here's the key takeaway, the most important part of this whole thing. The real magic, the real wisdom, isn't just in the words themselves. It's in the gap, the space between the simple dictionary definition and that much deeper original meaning. That's the sweet spot. That's where the storyteller finds the real gold.
Okay, let's put this into practice. For our first case study, we're going to look at a really key moment where the Buddha basically calls out the Brahmins on their claim to just inheriting wisdom. He uses this one Pali term to describe their whole tradition, ante-nepavani. And believe me, how you translate this single word, it completely flips the entire argument on its head.
So check out this transformation. The scholar's translation is simple enough, a line of blind men. You can picture it, right? One person following the next in the dark. But then the linguist steps in, looks at the roots of the word, and comes back with something completely different, a tangled succession of ignorance. Suddenly, it's not a neat line at all. And that just, wow, it illustrates the point perfectly. The Buddha wasn't saying their tradition was just a straight path in the dark. He was saying it's a messy, confusing knot, a tangle that you can get hopelessly trapped in. The visual just says it all, doesn't it?
All right, on to our next example. Here, the Buddha takes the Brahmins' most cherished virtues and completely reframes what they're for. He turns these lofty, abstract ideas into actual practical tools you can use for your mind. So he takes their 5 core practices, things like truthfulness, generosity, and he gives them a new name, Chittasa Parikare. And in doing so, he gives them a totally radical new job. So the scholar looks at this and says, okay, that's requisites of the mind, which sounds pretty academic, a little abstract, right? But the linguist digs deeper and comes up with the gear that furnishes your consciousness. See the difference? It's not a checklist of rules anymore. It's equipment, it's gear. So suddenly, these 5 virtues, truthfulness, austerity, all of them, they're not just these passive moral things you're supposed to aim for. Nope. They become the actual tools in your toolkit, the gear you use to literally build and organize your mind. And that's the storyteller's visual right there. Think about it. It's like going from a cluttered, messy garage where you can't find anything to a perfectly organized workshop for your mind, a place where every tool is exactly where you need it to be, ready to build some real well-being. Okay, time for our final case study. And this one gets right to the heart of that so-called impossible state that the Brahmin was talking about at the very beginning. The big question, how do you actually get there? The practice is called metta. Now, you've probably heard this term before, it's pretty famous. But the way it's usually translated, well, it kind of misses the most powerful, active part of the whole idea. The scholar's version is loving kindness. And that's beautiful, it's gentle, but it feels very internal, very passive, doesn't it? But the linguist? The linguist finds something way more dynamic under the surface, broadcasting boundless friendliness. That's not a quiet feeling. That is an active, powerful transmission. And get this, the text itself backs this up with an amazing metaphor. It literally compares the practice to a powerful conch blower, a musician whose sound just effortlessly fills every corner of the world. How cool is that?
So the visual here is that friendliness isn't a whisper. It's a signal. It's a powerful energy that you are actively radiating from your mind. You're not just feeling nice, you are broadcasting goodwill in every single direction, actively changing the space around you.
So, okay, we've gone through these 3 examples. What's the big takeaway? What does this mean for us today when we stumble across some ancient wisdom that just feels totally out of our league?
Well, here's the bottom line. The impossible becomes possible the moment we switch the lens. By putting on those 3 hats, the scholar, the linguist, and the storyteller, we can take what looks like a dusty old philosophical argument and turn it into a practical, psychological roadmap. That impossible state? Turns out it's not impossible at all. It's a skill. It's something you can actually build.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on, right? What other amazing wisdom, what other profound truths are just sitting there, hiding in plain sight, simply waiting for us to find a new way to read them, waiting for a new storyteller to bring them to life?